Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his massive warship and looked out at the small blue planet below. Earth hung in space like a marble, white clouds swirling over green and brown continents. It looked peaceful, harmless, just like all the other worlds he had conquered. "Sir, we are in position," said his second-in-command, Officer Krelzon. "All 12 dreadnoughts are ready. The smaller ships are patrolling the outer system." Veltar nodded. This was how it always went. The Zephyrian Empire had a simple plan that worked every time. Show up with overwhelming force, demand surrender, wait for the scared aliens to give up. It had worked on 47 worlds in the past century. "What do we know about these humans?" Veltar asked. Krelzon pulled up a holographic display. "They are primitive, sir. They have barely left their home planet. A few small bases on their moon, some basic space stations. Their most powerful weapons are crude nuclear bombs. They should surrender within hours of our first message." Veltar smiled. This would be easy. Maybe too easy. Part of him hoped the humans would put up at least a small fight. Conquering worlds without any resistance was getting boring. On Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Jake Martinez was having a normal Tuesday morning at NORAD. He was drinking his third cup of coffee and reviewing satellite reports when every alarm in the facility started, screaming at once. "Sir, we have multiple unknown contacts," shouted Sergeant Lisa Harper from her station. 12 massive objects just appeared in orbit. They're huge, sir, bigger than anything we've ever seen. Jake dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the bomb floor, but he didn't notice. He was staring at the radar screen in disbelief. 12 enormous ships had just appeared around Earth like they had been there all along. "Get me the president on the line," Jake ordered. "And contact NASA, the Pentagon, everyone. We need to figure out what we're dealing with here." Before anyone could respond, every radio, television, and communication device on Earth crackled to life with the same message. It came in perfect English, though the voice sounded strange and mechanical. "Primitive species of the third planet. You will surrender immediately. You have 72 hours to lay down all weapons and submit to Zephyrian rule. Resistance is futile. Your technology is inferior. Your military is worthless. Comply or face total destruction." The message repeated in every language on Earth: Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, Hindi. Somehow these aliens knew every human language perfectly. Jake stared at the communication equipment in shock. First contact with alien life, and it was a surrender demand. This was not how anyone had imagined it would happen. At the White House, President Kevin Brooks was in the middle of a budget meeting when his chief of staff burst into the room without knocking. "Sir, we have a situation, a big one." Within minutes, the president was in the situation room with his top advisors. Dr. Amanda Lee from NASA was patched in via video link, along with military commanders from around the world. "What exactly are we looking at?" President Brooks asked. 12 alien warships, sir," said General Frank Collins. "Each one is about 2 miles long. They're positioned at strategic points around Earth. We've never seen technology like this." Dr. Lee leaned forward. On the video screen, "Mr. President, their ships just appeared out of nowhere. No acceleration, no energy signatures we could detect. They have technology far beyond anything we understand." "What about their message?" the President asked. "They want us to surrender in 72 hours, said Admiral Susan Price. "Complete. Surrender. They're treating us like we're not even worth fighting." President Brooks was quiet for a long moment. Everyone in the room waited for his response. Finally, he spoke. "Has anyone tried to communicate with them, to ask what they want besides surrender?" "We've sent multiple messages, sir," said Dr. Lee. "They're not responding to anything. It's like they've already decided we're defeated." On the bridge of the Sovereign's Wrath, Officer Krelzon looked puzzled. "Sir, the humans are sending us messages. They want to talk." "Talk?" Veltar laughed. "What is there to discuss? We have given them our terms. They will surrender or they will die. There is nothing else to say." "But sir, they keep sending messages. They're asking about our intentions, offering to negotiate." Veltar waved a hand dismissively. "Ignore them. They are just stalling for time. Soon they will realize how hopeless their situation is and give up. They always do. But something was bothering Veltar. In all his conquests, no species had ever tried to negotiate after seeing his fleet. They either surrendered immediately or attacked in panic. These humans were doing neither. Back on Earth, the 72-hour deadline was ticking down. Every government on the planet was in emergency session. Military forces were mobilizing, though everyone knew conventional weapons would be useless against technology this advanced. In a bunker deep beneath Colorado, Dr. Rachel Williams was working frantically with a team of scientists to analyze the alien ships. They had detected strange energy readings, unusual metal compositions, and propulsion systems that defied known physics. There has to be something, she muttered to herself. Every technology has weaknesses. We just need to find theirs. Captain Danny Rodriguez, an Air Force pilot, was sitting in his fighter jet on a runway in Nevada. His squadron had been scrambled and was waiting for orders. He looked up at the sky, knowing somewhere up there were alien ships that could probably destroy his plane with a thought. "This is crazy," he said to his wingman over the radio. "We're fighter pilots. We're trained to fight other humans, not aliens with super technology. What choice do we have?" And his wingman replied, "We can't just give up without trying." As the deadline approached, President Brooks called an emergency session with world leaders. The question was simple: surrender or fight? If we surrender, what happens to humanity? Asked the President of France. "We become slaves," said the Prime Minister of the UK. "We lose everything that makes us human. If we fight, we'll all die," said the President of Russia. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." President Brooks listened to the debate, then made his decision. He activated the global communication system and broadcast a message that would be heard by every human on Earth and every alien ship in orbit. "To the Zephyrian Empire, we have considered your terms. Our answer is no. Earth will not surrender. If you want our planet, you'll have to take it." On the Bridge of the Sovereigns, wrath, Veltar received the message and stared at the communication device in disbelief. In 100 years of conquest, no species had ever said no to the Zephyrian Empire. "Sir?" asked Officer Krelzon. "What are your orders?" Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice filled with something he hadn't felt in decades: uncertainty. "Prepare the fleet for battle. These humans have just made the biggest mistake of their short lives." Commander Veltar could not believe what he had just heard. In 100 years of conquest, no species had ever refused the Zephyrian Empire. He stared at the communication device, waiting for another message. Surely the humans would change their minds. "Sir, should we attack?" asked Officer Krelzon. "Not yet," Veltar replied. "They are probably just confused. Give them time to think about what they have done. Fear will make them surrender soon enough." But hours passed and no surrender came. Instead, the humans were doing something strange. Every military base on their planet had gone to full alert. Their primitive aircraft were taking off. Their naval ships were moving to defensive positions. "Sir, they appear to be preparing for war," reported Krelzon. Veltar was genuinely puzzled. "Do they not understand the situation? We could destroy their entire planet in minutes." "Perhaps we should demonstrate our power," suggested Krelzon. "A small show of force usually makes them see reason." Veltar nodded. "Target 3 of their coastal cities. Nothing too large. Just enough to show them what we can do." On Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Jake Martinez was coordinating with military leaders around the world. Every radar station was tracking the alien ships. Every satellite was focused on the enemy fleet. "Sir, we're detecting energy buildups on 3 of the alien vessels," reported Sergeant Lisa Harper. "It looks like they're charging weapons." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Which cities are they targeting?" "Los Angeles, London, and Tokyo, sir." Jake grabbed the emergency phone. "Get me the president, now." But it was too late. 3 beams of pure energy lanced down from space. In seconds, 3 major cities simply vanished. Millions of people died instantly. Where Los Angeles had been, there was now only a crater of melted glass. London was gone, replaced by a smoking hole in the earth. Tokyo had been erased as if it had never existed. The world watched in horror as the news spread. 3 cities, millions of people, gone in the blink of an eye. President Kevin Brooks stood in the Situation Room staring at the satellite images of the destroyed cities. His hands were shaking. Around him, his advisors were silent with shock. "Sir, the aliens are broadcasting another message," said Admiral Susan Price quietly. The voice filled the room, cold and mechanical. "Humans of Earth, you have seen what happens to those who refuse us. Surrender now, or we will destroy 10 more cities. You have 12 hours. President Brooks closed his eyes. The smart thing would be to surrender. Save the remaining cities. Save the billions of people still alive. But something inside him refused to give up. "No," he said quietly. "Sir?" asked General Frank Collins. "I said no," the president repeated, louder this time. "We don't negotiate with mass murderers. Send a message to every military unit on the planet. We fight." In New York City, Police Captain Ryan Clark was helping coordinate the evacuation of Manhattan. The streets were filled with panicked people trying to get out of the city before the aliens struck again. "Keep the roads clear," Ryan shouted into his radio. "Emergency vehicles only. Everyone else moves on foot." But not everyone was running. Groups of people were gathering in the streets holding signs and chanting. They were angry, not scared. The destruction of 3 cities had not broken their spirit. It had made them furious. "Captain, we've got citizens forming up with hunting rifles and baseball bats," reported one of his officers. "They say they want to fight the aliens when they land." Ryan almost laughed despite the situation. Hunting rifles against alien technology? They'll get themselves killed. "What should I tell them, sir?" Ryan thought for a moment. "Tell them to stay organized. If the aliens want to fight, we'll give them one." In Colorado, Dr. Rachel Williams was working frantically in her underground laboratory. The energy readings from the alien attack had given her new data to work with. "The beam weapons use a focused particle stream," she explained to her team. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've seen, but it follows basic physics principles. If we can understand how they generate the particles, maybe we can find a way to disrupt them." Her assistant, Dr. Carl Johnson, looked skeptical. "Rachel, these aliens have technology centuries ahead of ours. What makes you think we can figure out their weapons in a few hours?" "Because we have something they don't expect," Rachel replied. "Desperation. When you're fighting for survival, you find solutions you never thought possible." On the bridge of the Sovereign's Wrath, Commander Veltar was growing frustrated. The demonstration of power should have ended the war immediately. Instead, human military activity was increasing. "Sir, their aircraft are still flying," reported Krelzon. "Their ships are still patrolling. They show no signs of surrender." "Then we destroy more cities," Veltar said angrily. 10 cities, as we promised. "Sir, our ground commanders are requesting permission to land troops. They believe a surface invasion will be more effective than orbital bombardment." Veltar considered this. Ground troops would allow them to capture human leaders alive. It would also demonstrate their superiority in personal combat, not just ship-to-ship warfare. "Very well. Deploy the first wave. Target their major population centers. Show them that resistance is hopeless." The Zephyrian dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Each one carried 50 soldiers in advanced battle armor. Their personal shields could deflect any human weapon. Their plasma rifles could cut through tank armor like paper. In New York, Captain Ryan Clark watched the alien ships land in Central Park. The doors opened, and tall figures in gleaming armor stepped out. They moved with confidence, like they owned the planet already. "All units, weapons free," Ryan spoke into his radio. "Engage the enemy." The first human attack was a disaster. Bullets bounced off alien shields without effect. Rocket launchers and grenades did nothing. The Zephyrian soldiers walked through the human defenses like they were made of paper. But something unexpected happened. The humans didn't run. In Chicago, factory worker Tony Garcia watched alien soldiers march down his street. His neighbors were hiding in their basements, but Tony had a different idea. He knew the industrial district better than anyone. If their shields stop bullets, let's see how they handle a few tons of steel, he muttered, climbing into the cab of a massive construction crane. The alien patrol never saw it coming. Tony dropped a wrecking ball right on top of them. The shields flickered and failed under the massive weight. For the first time since the invasion began, Zephyrian soldiers died. News of the successful attack spread quickly through underground communication networks. Humans around the world began adapting their tactics. If guns didn't work, they used construction equipment. If explosives failed, they tried industrial acid. If direct assault was hopeless, they attacked supply lines and communication equipment. Commander Veltar received the first casualty reports with disbelief. How are primitive humans killing our soldiers? They are not fighting like soldiers, sir, reported the ground commander. They fight like animals. They use anything as a weapon. They attack from sewers, from rooftops, from places we would never think to look. They are still primitives with inferior weapons. Veltar said, increase the assault, land more troops. But privately, Veltar was beginning to worry. The humans were supposed to be broken by now. Instead, they seemed to be getting more determined with each attack. This was not how conquest was supposed to work. On Earth, President Brooks received reports from around the world. The aliens were winning every battle, but humans were learning. Each engagement taught them something new about alien technology and tactics. Sir, we can't win a conventional war, admitted General Collins. But we might not need to. These aliens expect us to fight like other armies they've conquered. If we change the rules, we might have a chance. President Brooks nodded. Then we change the rules. Send word to every resistance cell, every military unit, every citizen willing to fight. We don't play by their rules anymore. We make our own. 3 weeks after the first alien attack, the war had changed completely. The Zephyrians controlled the skies and most major cities, but they could not control the humans. Every day brought new problems for the alien forces. Engineer Tony Garcia crouched in the tunnels beneath Chicago, studying a map by flashlight. Around him, 50 other people waited quietly. They were construction workers, teachers, store clerks, and retired soldiers. None of them were supposed to be warriors, but the invasion had changed everything. The alien patrol comes through Sector 7 every morning at exactly 9 o'clock, Tony whispered. They always take the same route. Today we changed that route for them. The tunnels had become humanity's secret weapon. Every major city now had miles of underground passages. The aliens could destroy buildings and control streets, but they seemed confused by the idea of fighting underground. Their sensors worked poorly through rock and concrete. Are you sure this will work? Asked Maria Santos, a former office manager who had become one of the best tunnel fighters in the resistance. Their shields stop energy weapons and bullets, Tony replied. But we found out they don't stop everything. Yesterday's test with the cement mixer proved that. Heavy, slow-moving objects can overload their shield generators. Above ground, the alien patrol moved through the empty streets. 6 Zephyrian soldiers in their gleaming armor, confident that no human could threaten them. They had been walking the same route for 2 weeks without any problems. The street exploded beneath their feet. Tony's team had spent 3 days carefully placing industrial explosives in the sewer system. Not to kill the aliens directly, but to drop them into a prepared trap. As the street collapsed, the alien soldiers fell 15 feet into a concrete pit filled with wet cement. Their shields flickered and sparked as they tried to move through the thick mixture. The cement was not a weapon they could deflect. It was just heavy, sticky, and everywhere. Now, shouted Maria. Humans poured out of hidden tunnels, carrying welding torches, industrial acid, and electromagnets stolen from scrapyards. They could not penetrate the alien shields directly, but they had learned to be creative. The welding torches overheated the shield generators. The acid ate through power cables. The electromagnets disrupted the aliens' communication equipment. Within minutes, 6 of the galaxy's most advanced soldiers had been defeated by construction workers with improvised weapons. In a laboratory hidden beneath the ruins of MIT, Dr. Rachel Williams stared at her latest discovery. Her team had been studying pieces of alien technology for weeks. and they were finally making progress. The shield generators operate on a rotating frequency, she explained to Dr. Carl Johnson. Every few seconds, they shift their energy pattern to prevent exactly what we've been trying to do. But there's a gap. For 0.3 seconds during each cycle, they're vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses. Carl looked at the captured alien device on the workbench. 0.3 seconds is not very long. How do we time it perfectly? We don't have to, Rachel smiled. We just have to hit them with continuous pulses until we get lucky. And I think I know how to build a device that can do exactly that. She pointed to a modified radio transmitter, surrounded by car batteries and copper wire. It's not pretty, but it should work. If we can get close enough to an alien ship, this pulse generator will eventually find that vulnerability window. Meanwhile, in the tunnels beneath New York, Police Captain Ryan Clark was training a group of teenagers how to move silently through the underground passages. The kids were too young to fight directly, but they were perfect for reconnaissance and message delivery. Remember, you're our eyes and ears, Ryan told them. The aliens have better technology, but they don't know our city like we do. Every tunnel, every sewer grate, every basement connection is an advantage for us. One of the teenagers, a 16-year-old named Ben Taylor, raised his hand. Captain, why don't the aliens just flood the tunnels or gas us out? Because they need us alive, Ryan replied. Dead slaves can't work. They want to conquer Earth, not destroy it. That gives us room to operate. On the bridge of the Sovereign's Wrath, Commander Veltar was reading casualty reports with growing alarm. His ground forces were losing soldiers every day to primitive human attacks. Worse, the humans seemed to be learning faster than any species he had ever encountered. Sir, Ground Commander Hethron is requesting additional support, reported Officer Shalzon. He says the humans are using unconventional tactics that our training did not prepare us for. What kind of tactics? Veltar asked. They hide in tunnels we cannot detect. They use industrial equipment as weapons. They attack our supply convoys with modified vehicles. Yesterday, they somehow managed to electrocute an entire patrol using power lines from their electrical grid. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. In every previous conquest, enemy resistance had decreased over time as their military was destroyed. These humans were different. Their military had been largely eliminated in the first week, but civilian resistance was actually increasing. What about their communication networks? He asked. Still active, sir. We destroyed their satellite systems, but they have backup networks, using underground cables and short-range radio transmitters. Every time we locate and destroy one hub, they establish 2 more somewhere else. In a basement in Detroit, computer programmer Steve Murphy was working with a team of hackers to intercept alien communications. They had discovered that Zephyrian technology used quantum encryption, but their communication protocols had a weakness. They're so advanced that they didn't bother to protect against primitive attacks, Steve explained to his team. It's like using a super secure lock on your front door, but leaving your windows open. His partner, electrical engineer Helen Clark, pointed to her monitoring equipment. I've been tracking their communication frequencies. Every time they send a message, there's a brief moment when their systems are vulnerable to electromagnetic interference, so we can't decode their messages, but we can jam them, Steve realized. If we hit them at exactly the right moment with the right frequency, we can crash their entire communication network. They had been working on the project for 2 weeks, using parts scavenged from destroyed electronics stores and abandoned factories. The device they built looked like a pile of junk, but it was designed to do one thing perfectly: disrupt alien communications at the worst possible moment. The first test came when a Zephyrian patrol was coordinating with their command ship during a street battle in downtown Detroit. Steve triggered his device just as the patrol was calling for backup. The aliens' communication system crashed completely. For 15 minutes, the patrol was cut off from their commanders, their sensors were scrambled, and their coordination was destroyed. Human resistance fighters used those 15 minutes to escape a trap and take out 2 alien vehicles. News of the successful communication jamming spread through the resistance network immediately. Within days, similar devices were being built in basements and garages around the world. Dr. Amy Watson, working in a hidden laboratory in Texas, made an even more important discovery. She had been studying the power systems of captured alien equipment and found something interesting. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly complex, she explained to her research team. Every system depends on dozens of other systems. If we can overload just one component, we might be able to cause a cascade failure that shuts down everything. Her first successful test was on a damaged alien weapon. By sending a precisely timed electrical surge through its power coupling, she managed to make the entire device shut down permanently. "It's like pulling one card from a house of cards," she said excitedly. "Their technology is so integrated that damaging one part can destroy the whole system." Commander Veltar received the latest reports from his ground commanders with growing concern. Human attacks were becoming more sophisticated every day. They were learning to exploit weaknesses in Zephyrian technology that even trained engineers had not considered. "Sir, perhaps we should consider withdrawing our ground forces and conducting orbital bombardment instead," suggested Officer Krelzon. "And rule over a dead planet?" Veltar replied angrily. "The Empire needs these worlds productive, not destroyed. We must find a way to break their resistance without destroying their infrastructure." But privately, Veltar was beginning to doubt that victory was possible. These humans were unlike any species the Zephyrians had ever encountered. They adapted, they learned, and they never seemed to lose hope no matter how badly they were losing. For the first time in his military career, Commander Veltar wondered if the Zephyrian Empire had finally met an enemy they could not defeat. Captain Danny Rodriguez crouched behind a pile of rubble in what used to be downtown Miami. 6 weeks into the invasion, the war had completely changed. The aliens still controlled the skies, but they no longer controlled the ground. And today Danny was about to change everything. The Zephyrian transport ship sat in the middle of the street, its crew unloading supplies for their ground forces. They had grown careless over the past few days. Human attacks had decreased in this sector, so they assumed the resistance was weakening. They were wrong. Danny's team had been watching this supply run for 2 weeks, learning the patterns. The transport always landed in the same spot. The crew always followed the same routine, and most importantly, they always left the ship's rear cargo door open during unloading. "Remember the plan," Danny whispered into his radio. "We need that. Ship intact. No explosives, no heavy weapons, just get me close enough to get inside." Maria Santos, now the leader of the Southern Resistance Cell, coordinated the distraction. Her team opened fire from 3 different buildings, drawing the alien soldiers away from their transport. The weapons fire was just for show. Bullets still bounced off alien shields, but it got their attention. While the Zephyrians focused on the decoy attack, Danny sprinted across the open street and dove through the cargo door. Inside the alien ship, everything was strange and confusing. The walls glowed with soft light, and the control panels looked nothing like human technology. But Danny was a pilot. He understood the basic principles of flight, even if the technology was different. Thrust, lift, navigation, communication. Every aircraft needed the same basic systems. "Okay, you alien piece of junk," he muttered, studying the pilot's seat. "How do you fly?" It took him 10 precious minutes to figure out the basic controls. The alien text made no sense, but the ship's computer seemed designed to be operated by simple touch commands. When he pressed what looked like a power button, the entire ship hummed to life. The Zephyrian crew realized what was happening when their transport ship suddenly lifted off the ground. They tried to stop it, but Danny had already figured out how to close the cargo doors. Within seconds, he was flying a stolen alien ship over the ruins of Miami. "This is Rodriguez to all resistance cells," he broadcast on every frequency. "I have successfully captured an enemy transport. Repeat, we now have an operational alien aircraft." The news spread through the human resistance network like wildfire. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had air superiority in at least one location. Dr. Rachel Williams received the news in her underground laboratory with excitement. "If Danny can fly one of their ships, we can learn how their technology really works," she told her team. "Get him on the radio. I need detailed scans of every system on that aircraft." For the next 3 hours, Danny flew the captured ship while Rachel's team guided him through a complete technical analysis. They learned more about alien technology in those 3 hours than they had in 6 weeks of studying wreckage. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency, just like we suspected, Rachel explained to Dr. Carl Johnson. But now we know the exact timing. And their weapon systems are tied directly to their power grid. If we can overload one, we can shut down both. The breakthrough came when Rachel realized that human electrical systems operated on a completely different frequency than Zephyrian technology. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons that match their own frequency patterns, she said excitedly. But they're not calibrated for our primitive electrical systems. Working through the night, Rachel's team modified a car battery, some copper wire, and a radio transmitter into a device that could penetrate alien shields. The first test was conducted on a piece of captured alien armor. The device worked perfectly. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had a weapon that could kill Zephyrian soldiers. In New York, Captain Ryan Clark received the technical specifications for Rachel's shield breaker device. Within hours, resistance cells around the world were building their own versions using scavenged car parts and electronics. This changes everything, Ryan told his team. We're no longer just an annoyance to them. We can actually fight back. The first real test came 3 days later. A Zephyrian patrol was moving through the tunnel systems beneath Manhattan, hunting for resistance fighters. They had grown confident that their shields made them invulnerable in close combat. Ryan's team was waiting for them with the new weapons. The aliens never knew what hit them. The shield breaker devices overloaded their personal defenses in seconds. For the first time since the invasion began, human weapons killed Zephyrian soldiers in direct combat. Commander Veltar received the casualty report with shock. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our shields are impenetrable." "The humans have developed some kind of new weapon," reported Ground Commander Hethron. "It disrupts our shield generators using electromagnetic pulses calibrated to our power, systems' vulnerable frequencies." "That's impossible," Veltar said. "They don't have the technology to understand our shield systems." "Sir, they captured one of our transport ships 3 days ago. The pilot managed to study our systems for several hours before we could stop him." Veltar was quiet for a long moment. The humans had stolen one of their ships and reverse-engineered their most important defensive technology in less than a week. No species in the galaxy had ever adapted that quickly. Meanwhile, Steve Murphy and Helen Clark had been working on an even more ambitious project. The communication jamming device had been successful, but they wanted something bigger. They wanted to shut down an entire Zephyrian ship. "If we can jam their communications, we should be able to jam their computer systems too," Steve explained to his team of hackers. "Their ships are controlled by quantum computers, but they still need to communicate with the ship's various systems." Using parts from a dozen destroyed electronics stores, they built a device designed to overload alien computer networks. The plan was simple. Get close to a Zephyrian ship and flood their systems with so much electromagnetic interference that their computers would crash. The opportunity came when a Zephyrian cruiser landed outside Detroit to establish a forward command post. Steve's team waited until nightfall, then used the tunnel system to get within 50 yards of the ship. "Remember, we get one shot at this," Steve whispered to Helen as she prepared the jamming device. "If it doesn't work, we're probably dead." Helen activated the device, sending a massive pulse of electromagnetic energy toward the alien ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every light on the Zephyrian cruiser flickered and went out. The ship's engines shut down. Its weapons went offline. Its communication systems died. For 15 minutes, one of the galaxy's most advanced warships was completely helpless. Human resistance fighters used those 15 minutes well. They couldn't destroy the ship, but they could steal everything that wasn't bolted down. Weapons, equipment, computer cores, even alien food supplies were hauled away through the tunnel system. When the ship's systems came back online, the Zephyrians found that humans had looted their vessel while they sat helpless in the dark. The news of the successful ship raid reached resistance cells around the world within hours. More importantly, it reached other species that the Zephyrians had conquered. On the distant planet Kepler 442b, the native Altarians received a quantum transmission from Earth. The message was simple. The Zephyrians could be defeated. For the first time in 50 years, the enslaved Altarians began to hope. Similar messages reached 12 other conquered worlds. Species that had submitted to Zephyrian rule decades ago suddenly realized that their oppressors were not invincible. Commander, Veltar watched the rebellion reports with growing alarm. 3 conquered worlds had already begun open revolt. 2 more were showing signs of unrest. The human resistance was inspiring uprisings across the galaxy. "Sir, perhaps we should negotiate with the humans," suggested Officer Krelzon. "Offer them some form of limited autonomy in exchange for stopping their resistance." Negotiate? Veltar was shocked. The Zephyrian Empire does not negotiate with primitives, but privately, Veltar knew the situation was desperate. Human resistance was growing stronger every day. Their technology was improving rapidly, and now other species were joining the fight against Zephyrian rule. For the first time in the Empire's history, Commander Veltar wondered if they had started a war they could not win. On Earth, President Kevin Brooks received daily reports from resistance cells around the world. Human casualties were still heavy, but Zephyrian losses were mounting too. More importantly, human morale was higher than it had been since the invasion began. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," the president told his advisors. "We're fighting for every world the Zephyrians have conquered. If we can beat them here, we can free the entire galaxy." 2 months after the invasion began, the war was no longer going according to Zephyrian plans. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth's blue surface through the viewport. What should have been a simple conquest had become a nightmare. "Sir, we have lost contact with 3 more ground bases," reported Officer Krelzon. "The humans have captured 4 more of our transport ships and are using them against us." Veltar closed his eyes. Human pilots were now flying Zephyrian aircraft with deadly skill. They had learned to operate alien technology faster than anyone thought possible. Worse, they were modifying captured ships with human weapons and tactics. "What about the other worlds?" Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. 7 planets are now in open rebellion, sir. The Altarians have destroyed our mining facilities on Kepler 442b. The crystalline beings of Proxima Centauri have cut off all resource shipments. Even the peaceful Tau Cetians are refusing to cooperate. The human resistance had done more than defend Earth. They had inspired a galaxy-wide revolution against Zephyrian rule. Species that had been enslaved for decades were fighting back with renewed hope. In the tunnels beneath Washington, D.C., engineer Paul Davis was putting the finishing touches on humanity's most ambitious project yet. Working with astrophysicist Kelly Moore, he had discovered something incredible about Zephyrian ships. Their hyperdrive systems all operate on the same quantum frequency, Paul explained to President Kevin Brooks. "It's like having every car in the world use the same radio station. If we can build a transmitter powerful enough, we can send a signal that will overload every Zephyrian hyperdrive in the solar system." Kelly nodded excitedly. "We've been studying the captured ships for weeks. The hyperdrives are incredibly advanced, but they have a fatal flaw. They're designed to prevent interference from other Zephyrian ships, but they're vulnerable to quantum feedback loops. In simple terms," Paul continued, "we can make their ships explode by sending them the right radio signal." The device they had built filled an entire underground warehouse. It was a collection of every powerful transmitter on Earth, connected to captured alien technology and powered by 3 nuclear reactors. The construction had taken 6 weeks and required cooperation from resistance cells around the world. "Will it work?" asked President Brooks. "We won't know until we try," Paul admitted. "But our calculations show it should create a quantum cascade that will overload every Zephyrian hyperdrive within 10 million miles of Earth." On the other side of the planet, Captain Danny Rodriguez was preparing for the largest air battle in human history. He now commanded a fleet of 30 captured Zephyrian ships, each one modified with human weapons and piloted by the best military aviators Earth could provide. "Remember, we only get one chance at this," Danny told his pilots over the radio. "When Paul activates his transmitter, the alien ships will be defenseless for exactly 17 minutes. We need to destroy as many as possible before their systems come back online." Admiral Susan Price was coordinating the space battle from a bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean. Using captured alien communication equipment, she could track every Zephyrian ship in the solar system. The enemy fleet was larger than anything humanity had ever faced, but they had advantages the aliens didn't expect. All units, this is Admiral Price. She broadcast to resistance cells around the world. Operation Homecoming begins in 60 seconds. Every human ship, every resistance fighter, every person who can hold a weapon. This is our moment. Commander Veltar was reviewing casualty reports when every alarm on his ship started screaming at once. His communication officer was shouting something about quantum interference, but Veltar couldn't understand what was happening. Then the lights went out. Paul Davis's transmitter was working perfectly. The quantum cascade was spreading through the Zephyrian fleet like a virus, overloading hyperdrive systems and shutting down ship after ship. In the space of 5 minutes, the most powerful military force in the galaxy was rendered helpless. Danny Rodriguez led the human counterattack with savage precision. The captured Zephyrian ships dove through the enemy fleet, their weapons blazing. Without shields or engines, the alien vessels were sitting targets. "This is for Los Angeles," Danny whispered as he destroyed his first enemy ship. "This is for London. This is for Tokyo." Around the world, human resistance fighters emerged from their hiding places. Dr. Rachel Williams led a team of scientists in capturing intact alien technology. Steve Murphy and Helen Clark coordinated cyber attacks on disabled Zephyrian computer systems. Captain Ryan Clark organized ground forces to secure crash sites. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When the quantum cascade finally ended, and Zephyrian systems began coming back online, they found their fleet had been cut in half. Hundreds of ships were destroyed or captured. Thousands of elite soldiers were dead or prisoners. Commander Veltar watched his tactical display in horror. The most powerful military force in Zephyrian history had been defeated by primitives using modified car radios and stolen technology. "Sir, we're receiving surrender demands from the humans," reported Officer Krelzon. The message came from President Brooks himself, broadcast on every frequency. "Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire, your fleet is destroyed. Your soldiers are defeated. Your invasion has failed. You have 1 hour to withdraw all remaining forces from Earth and human space. Any ship that remains after that deadline will be destroyed." Veltar stared at the communication device in disbelief. Surrender demands from primitives who had barely achieved spaceflight 2 months ago. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Krelzon. Veltar looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. They were all waiting for him to order a final desperate attack. But Veltar was a soldier, not a fool. He knew when a war was lost. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "All ships withdraw to the edge of the solar system. We're leaving." "Sir, the Empire will not accept retreat," Krelzon protested. "High Command expects us to conquer this world." "High Command can come here and try it themselves," Veltar replied. "I'm not sacrificing any more ships to these humans." As the surviving Zephyrian vessels limped away from Earth, Veltar composed his final report to the Empire. It was not a message of victory, but a warning. "The species known as humans are unlike any we have encountered," he wrote. "They adapt faster than our best scientists. They learn from every mistake. They never surrender no matter how hopeless their situation appears. Most dangerous of all, they inspire others to fight. Our conquest of this world has cost us 7 rebellions across the galaxy. Recommendation: avoid human space at all costs. These beings are not primitives to be conquered. They are a force that could destroy the Empire itself." On Earth, President Brooks addressed the world from the steps of the rebuilt White House. "Today, humanity has won its independence," he announced. "But our work is not finished. There are species across the galaxy still enslaved by the Zephyrian Empire. We have the technology, the knowledge, and the determination to free them all." Danny Rodriguez stood with his fellow pilots looking up at the stars. "So what do we do now?" asked one of them. "Now we take the fight to them," Danny replied. "They came to our home. They killed our people. They thought we would roll over and die. Time to show the galaxy what happens when you mess with humanity." Dr. Rachel Williams was already at work in her laboratory, reverse engineering captured Zephyrian technology. We need faster ships, better weapons, and more advanced shields, she told her team. If we're going to liberate other worlds, we need to be prepared for anything. The invasion was over, but the war was just beginning. Humanity had defended Earth, but now they had a bigger mission. The galaxy was full of enslaved species waiting for liberation, and Earth had just proven that even the most powerful empire could be defeated by beings who refused to give up. Commander Veltar's invasion had been going smoothly, right up until Earth retaliated. Now the humans were coming for the rest of the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same.